Well, hello there, lads and ladies. Welcome back, finally, to another tattoo story time. Today, we are going to be talking about my Deinonychus hand tattoo. Now, I've always been a lover of dinosaurs, ever since I was a wee little lad, and my first ever experience with dinosaurs was, I think it was either the film Dinosaur, where they talked, and they had to migrate from one area to another after this little iguanodon's island was destroyed, and they were like, he was raised by lemurs or something like that. If you know it, comment down below. It's a fantastic film. Some good voice actors were in that, although I can't remember some of them. Yeah, I kind of liked how the Carnotaurus was always seen as like the main villain, mainly due to the fact that he was just ferocious and evil and never spoke, basically. Some of the best villains never really utter a sentence. It's just how they carry themselves as villains. Just having their presence alone is enough for them to be a very good villain. But my second instance with dinosaurs would probably have to be the old VHS or TV series known as Walking with Dinosaurs. If you've seen it, it's definitely fantastic. It starts off in the Triassic period, where it goes over some of the smaller animals that kind of went from coming out of the ocean to land, basically. You also had a couple of mammals as well. That was kind of a rare thing to see in the Triassic, was mammals. But as it went into the Jurassic and Cretaceous, you saw less and less of them. Sorry for the noise upstairs. Some of the family members are getting ready for Christmas and all that. So we're just trying to get decorations up and all that. So it's just a bit of a hassle, really. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, with my whole issue with like the accuracy of dinosaurs, like whenever I watched Jurassic Park for the first time, like because I was about roughly 8 or so, which was surprising because Jurassic Park was probably the biggest thing dinosaur related around, but I didn't watch it first because I really wanted to read the book first to get like a kind of an idea of what it would be like. And of course, when I reviewed the book, it was vastly different to how the film was, really. How they couldn't accurately depict whether or not if the dinosaur had feathers, although it was highly believed they would. But I think Steven Spielberg believed that, you know, having them like look like giant chickens would be very non-threatening, and most of the sauropods were sorry, not sauropods, sauropods were quite large, but not as large as we expect. Like some of the bones of their legs were quite big, but some of them would probably be roughly the same size as maybe a small house. Although I think a Stegosaurus was about the same size as a double-decker bus, so you can't really quote me on that. Also, it's kind of interesting with the Stegosaurus because an awful lot of the Stegosauruses tend to. It was kind of an unknown creature at the time. Like when it was first discovered, like no one really knew what it was. They knew what family it was part of, but there were so many like different types of ankylosaurs and kentrosauruses. Most of them look very much like Stegosauruses, but much smaller. This one is much bigger. Like the Stegosaurus was huge. Like it was able to stand and bang with a T-Rex. But normally, in its time, I think it was discovered late 18th century, I believe, somewhere near South Argentina or northern Argentina, near South America, somewhere that way. Although it depends really, because when the asteroid hit, this was roughly around the time when Pangaea was still a continent. Pangaea was roughly about 65 million years ago when the asteroid hit our Earth, basically. And then, of course, that created the big continental shift and thus led to an ice age due to certain parts of our land basically moving north and south, basically. That's obviously how our springs and summers and winters works due to the fact of how far north or how far south of the hemisphere a country is, basically. Although Pangaea was one of the supercontinents, it kind of looked like a rat with a very misshapen tail standing on top of a rock, if I can give you an idea of what that looks like. But yeah, the interesting thing was that most of the stegosaurs were found roughly in South America. Usually North America was mostly where all the theropods and sauropods were, due to them migrating an awful lot. It was the same with iguanodons. Iguanodons were mostly found on the coast because of, I believe they used their large noses as a way of tracking food, so they would stay on the coast because it was easier to smell, say, vegetation as the coastal winds picked it up and moved it through the coast basically. So that was one of their ways of tracking food. It's the same thing with what deers do basically, but deers have a much more well-grounded understanding of their layout of the land because they've had experience over the years basically. It's the same with elephants. Elephants get more intelligent thanks to experience. That's why you see an awful lot of matriarchs leading some of their younglings to and fro out of Africa. And that's how most of them stay alive, because of a very intelligent, experienced matriarch in their herd. But when it came to the Jurassic period, there wasn't that many dinosaurs that kind of stood out in history, which is why I found it very interesting with Jurassic Park, why Steven Spielberg decided to make certain changes, which was kind of odd, because the Dilophosaurus I think was meant to be roughly the same size or just smaller than I think a small a Ceratosaurus basically. If you don't know what a Ceratosaurus is, it's basically take a Carnotaurus and just shorten it down just by say maybe about 2 or 4 feet or something like that. That's probably the size of the Dilophosaurus basically. And no, it didn't have frills. It wasn't like this venom spitting creature. I believe in the book how it explains Dennis Nedry's death. Dennis kind of died from his intestines being spit all over the ground, and then he had his foot on the back of his neck, and then it clamped on his head. But that kind of it's kind of interesting how they would derail that. The only good thing about the film, I think, was when they kind of changed John Hammond's fate basically to make him more understanding of the wrongdoings he's done. They kind of had to do that so it would move on to a better understanding of him and what he wanted to do for Lost World basically. But yeah, his death was Jeff Goldblum on the brain. His death was definitely justified in the book. How he was killed by compies, and that's kind of shadowed in the second film where one of the mercenaries was killed by compies, or Compsognathus, if I'm being correct. Basically, if you know dinosaur buffs out there want to know what dinosaur is I'm talking about. It's like a small little I want to say parasitic, but it's not. Normally, those types of creatures can survive on small droplets of blood. They would normally go to sleeping dinosaurs and pick the meat out of their teeth. That was a way of them surviving, like how oviraptors would steal eggs and rely on the vagrancy of others that when they left their eggs in their nests basically to go out hunting. So each creature had its own unique way of hunting. Now that's what I really found interesting about dinosaurs, that something this ancient, so old, can be so intelligent, but from years and years apart from us basically. It's what I love about crocodiles as well really, because crocodiles and sharks are probably the only ancient creatures of our time that have been able to stand the test of God knows how many asteroids hitting our solar system, even our planet as well. And then you have continental shifts, you have the Ice Age, how they can survive something like that, but then can be easily killed by something as inconsistent as humans. It's kind of interesting really, or when it comes to pollution or global warming and stuff like that. So with my Deinonychus, I wanted to get the Deinonychus because that was the most unique dinosaur of my time. Everybody loves the Velociraptors, but the Velociraptor in the film of Jurassic Park and the Utahraptor from Walking with Dinosaurs are two very different, unique creatures. Both wrong in their own rights, basically. Velociraptors were very small, turkey-sized dinosaurs that had feathers on elbows, arms, backs, tails, so on and so forth, and would normally strike veins of the animal that they were hunting to make it bleed out, and then they would track it and stop it from feeding, drinking until it got sick or died basically, or they would scavenge most of the time. Utahs were roughly the same size as Velociraptors, but they have very specific feathers, or I don't know if you can call them feathers. I think they were more like string type whisker like things that would come out of their necks, although we don't really know the specifics of it really, because we don't even know what colour certain dinosaurs were. That's the one thing we never really knew. But I kind of like the mystery of that, because imagine the most creative looking colourful creature you could come across, say like a peacock. Imagine looking at a female peacock and then looking at a male peacock. You think to yourself they're not the same bird, but they are. That could probably be the same with dinosaurs, really, like how a female T Rex could look less attractive as a male, even though the male is smaller. Obviously, the male has to show his strength whenever he mates with a female. But normally it wasn't about strength because an awful lot of people tend to think that the Tyrannosaurus was stupid, but for its size, and even though its head was big and its arms were short, still understand why that is basically, why the arms were short basically, because it's like giving a dinosaur like the most. It's like the first creature that you could think like, all right, let's just give him like a disadvantage in life and see how far he gets with it. Not very far at all, thanks to the asteroid hitting the Earth. So you couldn't really tell how long it would have lasted, basically. Because I think the Tyrannosaurus is the shortest living carnivore for its time. Well, like the largest one of its time, I believe. Because not many other creatures could stand and bang with it, unless if it was like an Ankylosaurus, if it got a lucky hit, or a Stegosaurus from that time. Well, no, Stegosaurus I think were Jurassic period, I believe as well. And Allosaurus was definitely too small, but that was also Jurassic. I believe the Carcharodontosaurus, I might be saying that wrong, was also Jurassic. So there wasn't really that many dinosaurs in the Cretaceous that could stand with a T-Rex on equal footing, really. But most T-Rexes normally hunted in pairs, really, because they were like birds, really, in a certain sense. They mated for life, so of course they would probably hunt together as well. But with the Deinonychus and the Utah raptor, I got the Deinonychus because of how, Hollywood and history go hand in hand, but they don't match in a certain sense. It's like whenever you like watch a film based on history, I love like stuff like that because I can sit there with my historical mind. I love history basically, so I like to like pick the small things in and out of history. But then history again is just another measure of like understanding whether or not if what you're saying is correct or not, because you're just going based off of what stories have said about these people, small documents. Again, a document doesn't make the person. For all we know, Henry VIII could be a very like one woman loving man, but what we're told is that he was a, you know, like a man that would cheat, behead, divorce, so on and so forth. Not the nicest of men, and even toppled a religion just to get a woman basically. So it's the same with like Richard III really, because for the longest time I always thought Richard III was this evil cowardly person, but no, he actually died valiantly in battle. It's the winners of war that go to the spoils. It's the spoils that go to the winners of war, but also the winners make the history, so they can say whatever they want about those that they beat. So imagine them basically trying to like crap on Richard's history and his pride basically. They don't want to say that, oh, he died valiantly in battle. Some people will probably say, like, oh, yeah, he shouted my kingdom for a horse, and so on and so forth. So it's the same with history, basically. Like, based on bias and certain findings, science is probably the only thing we can look at that will give us the idea of what true history is, basically. Thanks to artifacts that we find over the years, we can match them to certain pieces of history, and then that way is finding our direct idea of what it means to be understanding of the past, basically, or get some sort of understanding from the past. So although we don't see the whole picture, sometimes bones can give us the idea of what it was like back then for dinosaurs, basically. And it was a harsh life. Like, you'll see an awful lot of bones on dinosaurs that had scar tissues and bone density ruptures, holes from teeth puncturing the bone marrow, and so on and so forth. Sorry. I have to apologise. I've been feeling a little sick for the past week or so. I've been able to calm it down with some spray that I've had to put at the back of my throat. So I've had a bit of a sore throat recently. So for the past 2 days I've been fine. So I wanted to get this video out so you guys have something to watch. And again, I can only apologise for being so late. It's because of my sickness, I couldn't talk very well, so I just want to make sure that I had to get that done and dusted, so I just have to apologise for that. Sorry, guys. But, yeah, the Deinonychus tattoo was definitely a synchronicity thing that I wanted to get done as well, because on my other hand, I wanted to get something modern, so maybe something along the lines of like a caiman or something like that. But then I thought to myself, no, I think just this one tattoo is fine really, because the Deinonychus is like a link to the past. You know, because the way we learn as humans is learning from past mistakes, although we don't really tend to do that very well as humans, basically. It's kind of a shame, really. But yeah, I think maybe in the future I probably will get maybe a modern animal for something like that. Maybe like a fox skull or something like that. I don't know, because I have quite a history with foxes, really. And spiders. I do need to get a spider tattoo because I also have a very odd relationship with spiders, really, because I've had pet spiders over the years. I do plan to get myself a jumping spider when I have the opportunity because they are very good pets, they're very intelligent, and they are very inquisitive. Very fun to feed them as well, how they can just leap and jump to and fro, basically. So, that's my story of my love of dinosaurs. And also, good news, the Jurassic World Dominion will be coming out sometime in 2022. I don't know when, but I will be going to watch that, and I probably will do a review of that film because it's kind of like the last of the last. I feel like this should be the last Jurassic World film because if they do any more of it, they're just going to run it into the ground. And I feel like it might be Rexy's time to pass because they like showed the opening. I'm not going to spoil it for you. It's a very good opening. It kind of shows how the mosquito got the DNA from Rexy and who she is today, basically. And we might even see a little bit more of Chris Pratt and a little bit more of Blue as well. So I'm definitely interested to see how that's going to go. And yeah, so again, I thank you all ever so much for watching another video. I'll probably do a novel review sometime later in the week because I was about a day or so late. So maybe in 2 or 3 days' time, just so you know, you guys aren't waiting like another whole week. You know, just in case if I get sick again, so on and so forth, so I can get that out of the way. You know, I don't want to keep you guys waiting for stuff like that. When I've said, you know, I have a deadline, I'm going to fix it. It's just unfortunately I was a bit ill and I couldn't like get it out on time, which is a shame really because you know I don't like keeping you guys in the dark about these things. So, again, thank you all ever so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, tell a friend. And yeah, thank you ever so much. Take care, my friends. Love you guys.